You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Rowan Unreal. We are back. This is episode number 19 here on the Angry Marks Rewind podcast here at AngryMarks.com. The number one source, whatever. You know what? I'm not even going to do this.
What?
Hi Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You?
God, this has been a bit of a crazy week. So,
yeah.
I'm going to vent a little bit. Do we want to hear the good news first, or do you want to hear some praise and happiness, or do you want to just hear venting and madness and vitriol first?
Well, let's get the bad stuff out of the way first.
Okay, I did something this week that I don't normally do.
Yeah, what's that?
I get into a Twitter war with some random on Twitter regarding this very show that we did last week. Our first show in a year. We covered WrestleMania 1. Go back and listen to it. It's fucking awesome. It's brilliant.
Yes.
You agree with me that that was the peak of our performance, right?
Yeah, it was good. People should listen to it.
I thought so. Well, apparently someone listened to it in its entirety. I'm not going to give the guy's name because I deleted the tweets, the DMs, or whatever the kids are calling it these days.
I don't know.
He's one of those, I don't know if it's a real person. English may not have been this guy's first language. But the gist of it was, he was complaining. Well, first of all, he said that he listened to the entire show. For that, I'll give him a thumbs up. But then he goes on to say, oh, it wasn't entertaining. You guys weren't very entertaining. So, first of all, why did you listen to the whole fucking show then? Why don't you go off and listen to one of the 8 billion other wrestling podcasts that there are out there? And like I said, I don't normally get involved with this, but for some reason I was just in a pissy mood, and I just...
Yeah.
He goes on to say something like, oh, you're trying to be funny, you're trying to be like Brian and Vinny, you guys aren't Brian and Vinny. Well, no fucking kidding, we're not Brian and Vinny. They've been doing their show for 15 goddamn years.
And we've been doing ours off and on for probably 2.
This is only the 19th time we've done this. If you're listening to this out there, Twitter guy, fuck right off, because I don't need you. I only want to see happiness and good things. And no, we're not Brian and Vinny. That's their job. They do that to earn money. We do this because we're two geeks that like to watch wrestling and talk about it.
Yes.
We're never going to make this a career.
No.
Am I overreacting here?
No.
He's
and I do listen to Brian and Vinny stuff, and it is good. But, I also listen to a lot of their older stuff that gets put on YouTube, so.
Right. But the thing is, no, we're not them. I'm not striving to be them. I don't want this to be my full-time job. If I did, I'd have to watch the shit garbage that's on the current roster today, and that would make me blow my fucking head off.
Yes.
That's why we decide that we're going to pick and choose something that we want to watch because it's either A, good, or 2, it's funny, or C, both, or whatever. But he's one of these fucking Twitter geeks that has 8 followers and doesn't have a profile picture and doesn't...
Afraid to show his face, eh?
Oh, my God. I'm getting more upset at this than I should be, and I don't know why. I get suckered into this. I'm 43 years old. I should be a little bit more mature than this.
What's the good news?
Well, there's still bad news, actually.
Okay.
And I think it was so this whole fucking coronavirus thing, it's been killing everybody. It's been pissing people off. It's been messing up their lives. Well,
I've got something to say about that when you're done.
I finally, as of yesterday, became a victim of the work. Not enough work is available at my job. So I was furloughed yesterday in the middle of my fucking work day. So for the last month, I've been working from home. I have my little office set up, got my little desk. I'm looking outside my living room window. It's a beautiful day. I'm ready to go on my lunch break. I work in the insurance industry, so a lot of the stuff I can do from home. So I get a call on my lunch break, and it's my supervisor and it's my HR manager, and I knew this was coming because... And then it's like, okay, let's just get to the point. And they get to the point, and they say, this is only temporary, blah, 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 we'll bring you back and this stuff. Fine, great. And right after that, I decided, okay, I'm going to take an extended lunch because they don't expect me to finish up my workday. So I took the rest of the day off, quote unquote. That's where I decided, oh, I'll just go on Twitter. And that's when this idiot moron on Twitter is like, oh, you don't want this to be your job. It's like, no, don't talk to me about jobs now. Thus endeth the rant.
Right.
And then we had to watch this fucking show. Okay, the good news is, well, first of all, I guess it's not really news because it's the same. It's something that happens every year. Today, as we were recording this, it's May 1st, 2020. Tomorrow is May 2nd, 2020. Now, Mike, I consider you a good friend.
Yes.
But I consider you a better enemy.
Ah, puns.
And in saying so, you've been my co-host for many of these episodes. Tomorrow is May 2nd, and I just want to say happy birthday to my nephew, Sebastian, whose birthday is tomorrow.
And me.
Oh, and you?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. And The Rock.
And probably a few other people.
So, Rock, I know you're listening. You have to be listening.
No, he's not.
Shut up. He is too. Maybe that was him on Twitter under an alias.
Oh, God.
If that's the case, Mr. Johnson, I apologize. You're awesome.
I need work. Put me in your next movie.
The Mummy was awesome.
Rundown was good, too.
Which was the one, the Walking Man, when he did...
Walking Tall?
Walking Tall, because he beat the piss out of the guy's car with the 2x4.
Buford Pussard.
How many... Okay.
What a name.
Between the two of us, 50% of us knew what the character's name was. So, and yes, Mike, it's your birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
And our gift to you, the listeners, even that fucking Twitter shitter. There we go. Can we do that?
Yes. That's good.
I consider you a good friend, but a better enemy. And once we get, what is going on with you? And then we're going to get into this week's episode, which is, spoiler alert, in your house, good friends, better enemies. So,
basically, I'm still in lockdown, but we're slowly going to be getting opened back up here in Maine, very slowly. There was a press conference on Monday, and basically, we're still in lockdown until the end of the month, and she's going to start opening, our governor is going to start opening things up slowly in June, and we'll probably be open hopefully by September.
Have you been injecting Clorox to clean?
No. Don't drink bleach, folks.
Have you been putting light and heat on your skin to eradicate the virus?
There is light on me, but not on my skin.
Your fearless leader has, in the White House, has proclaimed that light and heat can get rid of the virus.
And it can also make him more orange.
God, he looks like an...
We also have to wear cloth masks here, or else they're going to get fined $1,000 and put in jail for 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, that's one of the things that people are mad about. And apparently some guy tried to reopen and got it today, and his business today, and got his licenses revoked.
Well, good for him.
Yep.
Is he going to be? Is he like one of those protesters that is like proclaiming that this whole thing is a hoax and it's impeaching their freedoms? Speaking of impeachment,
I don't know, but I know that's going on tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everyone, we've decided to forget talking about classic wrestling, and we're gonna turn this into a political podcast. And all of my knowledge is based on late night talk show monologues.
I was gonna say mine would be worse because it's based on stand-up comedy. So I don't follow politics, folks.
I've been watching a lot of Seth Meyers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't Usually my go-to late-night talk show host was always Jimmy Fallon for years and years.
I used to watch Leno years ago when he was still doing it.
Right. I've become quite the fan of Seth Meyers and his political takes, and his Trump impression is pretty funny. So I will.
Is he an actor of some regard? I know I've heard his name.
He used to be on Saturday Night Live a bunch of years ago, and he was the news anchor for Weekend Update.
Okay.
It was like the mid-2000s, I believe.
All right.
Anyways.
On to the show, folks.
Do we want to talk about this pay-per-view that we've watched, or do we want to talk about empty arena matches?
I didn't see any of the empty arena matches, so...
Thank God, me either.
Oh, we have one more thing, because we had a death in the wrestling industry last week.
Yeah, what else can be said? Howard Finkel passed away. Of course, he's the iconic voice of a lot of people's childhoods, mine included.
Mine too.
And that one
it hits.
It hurts. It hurts when another piece of your childhood passes away. And I can probably only count on one hand the number of people left in the wrestling business whose passing eventually is going to really hurt. And I think that's going to be like probably Hogan, Bret Hart, Ric Flair.
Vince, in some way, Vince,
that's not going to be a personal hit to me. I'd be far more interested to find out what happens to the business within 6 months of that happening. Like, does the stock prices go way down? Like, what happens?
Is there a company that can rise up after he passes?
Is the company going to be sold to Disney?
That might happen sooner than you think, according to rumors.
So.
Yep. And with that, on to the show.
Yeah, so we're going to discuss In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies, which took place at the end of April. I forget what the date was. It was the end of April.
April 28th, 1996, from the Civic Auditorium in Omaha, Nebraska.
And once we're finished this show, Mike, I hope you have your picks ready.
Oh, God, I haven't even given this any thought.
How might... Listen, buddy, pal.
Hi.
Hey, pal.
Hey, pal.
How much time did I give you to do your picks? When did we recorded what?
Maybe I have given it thought, but it's hard when you can't pick a Hogan or a Savage or something like that.
That's the whole point.
Right.
It was meant to stretch the outer limits of your imagination.
We'll see what I come up with here at the end of the show.
Just to recap, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to be doing here is the first annual, to sort of coincide with the NFL draft that happened a few days ago. We're doing the first annual Angry Marks Rewind Survivor Series draft. And like I said in the last show, normally we'd wait until Survivor Series season, but what the hell? It's our show. We can do what we want, and I thought I would jump the gun. So the goal at the end of this show is Mike and I are going to each, one at a time, in draft fashion, create our own custom Survivor Series team made up of individuals who have never won a world title. So that is the little hitch in the plan. So you can't pick Hogan or Shawn or Savage or Bret Hart, but anyone who has never won a world title in a company that has never had like national exposure.
Okay.
So we're talking AEW, WWF, WCW, NWA, ROH, New Japan, All Japan. We'll get the idea. But before that, Vince McMahon is out of control here in Omaha, Nebraska. Welcome to the heartland of America.
In the opening video where there's a plane flying over the globe and it's dropping a bomb on Omaha.
God, I just about died. I did attempt to get to ask Stevie J, who I don't know if we should be letting the people know about this. He lives in Omaha, Nebraska, and I did request some time with him to talk about this show from a live perspective. But as it turns out, he didn't move to Omaha until the year 2000. So, kayfabe us, man. Make something up. But he is a man of integrity, so he's decided not to. So,
yeah.
So the concept of this was still fairly new. These in your house pay-per-view events, they ran shorter. This one was just under 2 hours, and most of them up until this point was a one-match show. And this was certainly no exception. This was the 7th of the in your house branded events, and basically made to combat WCW that was now running monthly pay-per-views.
Although I don't think WCW had a pay-per-view in April '96. They weren't doing monthly quite yet.
April '96, they would have. Let's see, March would have been Uncensored. April would have been Spring Stampede.
They did not do Spring Stampede in '96. They didn't do that until '97.
Okay, well, did they do anything in April of '96?
No, I don't think so.
Should we look
this year they introduced Hog Wild.
Yeah, but that didn't take place until June, though.
August.
I don't know.
In Sturgis.
You were the fact checker with this.
No, they did not have. They didn't even have a Concert of Champions in April.
Okay. Well, I'm wrong then. Sorry, folks.
Anyway.
This was, Vince and Jerry the
King.
They had a very pitiful pyro display to open up this show. It was just like a bunch of Roman candles up in the rafters that just went off one at a time. And
probably what they could afford still, because they were still having trouble staying afloat at that point.
Yeah, this was Shawn Michaels' first title defense after winning the title.
The boyhood dream came true.
And when they do these opening monologues, and I sure miss that narrator. It's like,
the David Toddy videos, right?
Yeah, I think that's the guy. I don't know who the narrator is, but they need to bring that fella back if he's still amongst us.
He probably got furloughed by Vince in the surge of releases that happened a few weeks back.
His voice, when they talk about, we all know what it is. Like, for the challenger, the cup is half full. For the champion, a boyhood dream has come true. He's kind of like that movie guy. It's like, in a world where this happens. We need that.
In a world where Rob Schneider is doing a bad movie.
So we get Vince and King opening up the show, and the first person we see is the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, who's accompanied by Owen Hart and Jim Cornette and Clarence Mason. And
Clarence Mason.
And a legal document. And his scheduled opponent is Jake the Snake Roberts.
We see a clip from the UK tour that happened before this show.
And it's at this point where, shock of all shocks, we learn that Davey Boy Smith, a heel, is afraid of snakes.
As is every heel involved in this match, including the King.
Just one time I want to see a heel just like, fuck that snake, and like, kick it.
Earthquake, didn't he squash the snake?
He squashed the snake, and I was so sad. Hey, how old was I in 1991? 13, I think.
I would have been 5. Or actually, I wouldn't have. That happened right before my birthday, so I would have still been 4. But yeah, so I wouldn't have been watching at that point.
The first broadcasting mistake of the night comes when Bulldog is in the ring, and Jake is backstage, and Vince cuts to Jake back in the locker room right before Jake comes out, and Jake is, of course, the man of one of the best promos of all time, and he starts to cut this promo, but Vince just interrupts him. It's like, can't you see what's going on? It's like, let the fucking man talk.
Oh God.
So tell us about this document that Jim Cornette.
It was a well-written writ, according to Jerry Lawler. Other than that, I'm guessing it was a document to get the snake banned from ringside, which, if you remember WrestleMania 8, Jack Tunney had done the same thing, had the snakes outlawed from ringside.
You're breaking up here, buddy.
Am I?
Are we there? Okay, say that again. Edit. And I lost you again. Dude.
Last time, what happened here?
Are you plugged in?
I think so, yeah.
Plug your shit in.
I'm plugged in.
Act like you've done this before.
I am plugged today. I think.
I'm not editing any of this shit out. This is all going live right away.
Oh God.
So, anyways, he had a document in the ring that the lawyer. For those of you that didn't know, Jim Cornette. I'm not
sure which cord is the cord for the headset.
Okay, you figure your stuff out. I'll talk.
All right.
So Jim Cornette is accompanied by Clarence Mason, who is his own personal attorney, and all throughout this match, Jerry the King is making these jokes to Vince, like, "Oh, everyone should have their own personal attorney." Ha ha ha. And Vince.
Ha ha, pal.
Vince has probably had his fair share of attorney issues, as he will this week, I'm sure.
Am I any better?
Yeah, you're fine now.
Okay.
This document was...
The snake is banned from ringside, which...
The snake is banned.
I mean, if you remember WrestleMania 8, that was the whole thing. The snake had been banned from... Or the Jake Roberts-Randy Savage feud. Mm-hmm. Where Jake had a snake bite Randy, and that's what made Jack Tunney say, you can't have snakes anymore.
But now, all of a sudden, he's allowed to have snakes again. But this document...
By the way, this is 1996 Christian Zealot Jake.
Right. And he's wearing the Jake the Snake leather pajama top.
Yeah, because he's probably
his bulbous gut.
Overweight. Yeah.
I watched some Jake from Smoky Mountain from 1994 today.
Yeah.
Dude he was a bowling pin.
Yeah.
As a fat man, I can say that.
And Jake comes out and he does the thing with the snake, and Cornette feigns a heart attack.
Yeah,
for like 5 minutes.
Jake tears up the document, thus nullifying it. So clearly Jake knows his way around the legal procedures, and Cornette, his selling of these of him being scared by snakes was absolutely wonderful. And then
somebody call Mama Cornette. Jim Cornette's had a heart attack.
And Vince is like, I think he's gonna die.
Pretty close, Vince. And Jake leaves and comes back out with Ahmed Johnson, who,
of all people,
for some reason is just standing. That's what I don't get about this show. Obviously, they had like pre-show and post-show dark matches, which is why Undertaker's not on this show.
Right. Mark Merrill worked twice on this show, both dark matches.
But what is Ahmed doing there? He's not booked for this.
Always bring your gear, man.
Well, his gear just short pants and boots.
And he looked like he just came out of the shower.
He's glistening.
Someone gave him the Gatorade shower right beforehand, and now all of a sudden Jake just starts attacking Owen, and now it's a tag team match. So
just because.
Do you remember the summer of 1996 when Owen Hart had to wear the cast on his arm?
Yes. The Bob Orton Jr. style cast.
Right. I think I figured this out. So Jake has him in the knuckle lock, and he lifts him up. You know how that happens?
Yes.
So he's got Owen. He lifts him up with this knuckle lock and then drops him. And Owen is like selling his wrist for the rest of this match. So I think Jake broke Owen's arm.
And Owen just didn't know it. Well, that actually makes sense because I don't think Owen wrestles again until July.
No, that's not true because I went on the network rabbit hole. He did some King of the Ring qualifying matches. He did some tag matches, all wearing this cast.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's why he has a match with Mark Merrow.
Right, because he is a tough motherfucker.
That was the gimmick, though. It was Bob Orton Jr.
Mm-hmm. This match, there was nothing to it. Jake tries to hit a DDT on Owen after hitting a hip toss, because that's the setup in 1996. Ahmed tags in, and he just recklessly takes Owen to the corner and gives him about 5 stiff kicks to the head.
And the referee's just like standing there. Timmy White is just standing there.
Well, are you going to tell Ahmed Johnson to, not do what he's doing? I'd be like,
no.
Sorry, Owen. This is.
It'd be like telling Vader not to do it too.
Tim White's like, sorry, Owen, I'll owe you a Pepsi after this.
So, yeah, you owe him more than a Pepsi.
Owen hits a drop kick on Jake from the second rope, and I don't really think that Jake was in any condition to work here because some of the bumps he was taking was like
which is interesting because if he wasn't in, why not do Ahmed Bulldog? You had done an angle on TV leading up to this where Bulldog beat the shit out of him in an arm wrestling match.
Right, Ahmed comes out wearing a cast on his right hand because I guess Bulldog broke his thumb in an arm wrestling contest. So all throughout this match, Davey does his best to avoid Ahmed, and Vince is like, this is the first time Jake and Ahmed have ever teamed up. It's like, yeah, except at WrestleMania last month.
Well, that was a 6-man. This was a 2-on-2.
Doesn't matter.
It's WWE. Well, they're not good at continuity.
We talked about last show how Vince doesn't remember his own storylines.
Vince doesn't remember what he had for breakfast in the morning.
This match had a classic Vince, 1, 2, he got him! No, he didn't.
It's Vince, everybody.
And we got a couple of what-a maneuvers.
What a maneuver!
The finish comes in a melee. Bulldog gets a hold of Cornette's tennis racket, and he bonks Jake in the knee. And then he slaps on the laziest-looking standing leg bar.
It's like he couldn't, like he was trying to do a Boston half crab and couldn't get him all the way over.
Right, because Jake probably couldn't make the transition. And this went over 13 minutes, people.
Terrible match. They're heating Bulldog up for the title shot next month at the Disastrous Beware of Dog show.
Mm-hmm.
More on that later.
So then we get a plug for the WWF Superstar line with 123 Kid and Mark Marrow talking.
That's who I want to talk to.
Talking to the Red Bat phones, and they've got a split screen of Marrow and 123 Kid just yelling at each other, and in the background you see Sable, and she's just gazing into the camera, making sex faces.
And then Lawler's asks Vince, "Do you think she's pretty?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And Vince is like, "Really?" And Lawler's like, "Really?"
Yeah, for some reason he didn't think Sable was attractive in 1996.
Actually, now that I think of it, I kind of agree with Jerry on that. But
Really?
I like Sonny more, but yeah.
Well, Sonny definitely had more personality.
Yeah. I think Sable was better in that short run that she had in 03 and 04.
I don't know.
That's the weird thing she was doing with Tori, but more on... let's get back to the show. We have Warrior and Goldust up next.
Oh, yeah. This is something that happened.
Yes.
So the week prior, I actually watched the Raw Go-Home show where Goldust had just recaptured the Intercontinental title versus Savio.
Yes, they did the thing that they always do with the IC title for a few years there, and they have like a controversial finish storyline because they did it the previous year with Jeff Jarrett and Bob Holly, but this time it was with Goldust and Savio.
And then I guess between that show and this show, Goldust fucked up his knee royally because it was super
it was. They said it was on a free for all.
And so Goldust comes out. It's Goldust versus the Ultimate Warrior for the Intercontinental title. And accompanying Goldust is, of course, Marlena and this unknown bodyguard.
I'm played by Bruiser Mastino.
It was Mantar.
Mantar!
Without his cow head.
Well, yeah.
I was I totally didn't get it the first time I watched this show like 20 years ago. And I'm watching it and it's like, that guy looks familiar. And I did some research and it's fucking Mantar. Awesome.
They dug him up.
They're like, Dustin can't take any bumps. Who do we have? Let's call Cowhead.
Or we could just cancel the match and put Warrior against somebody else.
No, they're not going to do that, Dave. I mean, we already got their money. What are they going to do? Right?
Yeah. Carnies.
They had advertised this match. There was nothing to this match. This match went over 7 minutes before they actually made contact with each other.
And Jerry Lawler empties out his movie pun book.
I was so sick of Lawler after all this. I should ask Stevie J if the population of Omaha has become more politically correct since this show. The crowd was chanting faggot. The crowd was making all sorts of lewd, terrible, disgusting...
Yeah, they chant faggot, and Goldust gets on the mic and not helping his cause, and he says, if you don't shut up, I'm going to come out and kiss every one of you.
I'll personally kiss each and every one of you.
And that would have taken them the rest of the show, probably, and probably a little bit more time.
There's a sign in the front row that reads, Warrior, smear the queer.
Oh, Jesus. 1996, everybody.
Is queering makes the world work? Is that... No. Speaking of
queering does not make the world work according to the Warrior.
So just nothing happens. They're just stalling for time. Marlena drops the cigar on the ground. Warrior starts picking it up, and Vince is like, to my knowledge, the Warrior doesn't smoke. It's like, clearly you've never been in those back rooms after the shows.
Be a survivor, don't smoke.
I remember that.
Yeah. Yep.
Warrior offers to dress Goldust in his robe.
Weird.
So Goldust reluctantly accepts. He's like, okay, this large gentleman is going to dress me in my own robe. At this point,
weird.
This was fucked up. And then at this point, the director's chair was in the ring, Goldust.
The referee's given up at this point.
Who was the ref for this one?
Yeah, I have no... Tim White? No, Tim White was the first ref.
It would have been... Yeah.
What, Hebner, maybe? Maybe Kyoto?
I don't know who it was, but it would have been so funny if they hadn't smartened up the referee. Like
the ref's like, what the hell's going on here? Is this a fib?
The ref thinks it's just like a regular match. He doesn't know that Dustin is injured. 7 minutes and 20 seconds, we finally get some contact. Warrior clotheslines Dustin while he's in his chair. Dustin and Marlena run away, and they get counted out, and that ends the match until Mantar, the bodyguard, tries to beat up the Warrior. Warrior gives him a body slam and beats him up, and he should have brought his cow head. And it's a wretched segment, but it was anchored completely by Goldust's injury, so that kind of sucks. And the two of them never worked again with each other, because I think this was like Warrior's last, or one of his last TV appearances. I know that they did King of the Ring with Lawler, but they never went back to this Goldust program. So
nope. Warrior's 96 run. Ugh.
Some fine financial decisions making back then.
We want to bring him back for WrestleMania. Well, that's fine. Just bring him back for WrestleMania. Don't give him a run. Don't try to sell his awful comic book. Remember getting that a few months in the WWF magazine.
So then we cut back to Doc Hendricks, who's outside Shawn Michaels' dressing room, and out there, British Bulldog is trying to get in to see Shawn, and we got Cornette, and we got a bunch of officials trying to calm Bulldog down.
Tony Gurria's out there.
Probably
a few others.
Probably Rene Goulet. And
Rene Goulet. I think Patterson's there.
All those suits that you would expect to see at that time. So they are setting the table for the next program between Shawn and Bulldog.
Let me go get him. No, Shawn's got a match later. I'm Bizarre.
He's going to win whether he wants to or not.
Mr. Hitman, I'm booked.
Oh, man. Next up, we have Razor Ramon, the departing Razor Ramon, in his last televised pay-per-view match, unbeknownst to a lot of people at this time, taking on the Mastodon Vader.
Although not unbeknownst to Jim Cornette, because in the build-up to this match that I watched, there's a promo setting up this match where Cornette says, Razor, you've made a lot of business mistakes in the last few months, but the worst mistake you've made is facing Vader.
No, I think financially he made a pretty good deal, so I'm sorry. I would normally support Corny on this, but he doesn't have a leg to stand on. And neither did Yokozuna, because they showed a clip of Vader splashing Yokozuna's leg, and they put in in post some bone cracking sound, which at the time when I first watched this, I cringed, because they got Yokozuna's leg draped over the bottom rope, and Vader's doing the Vader splash on it, and they put in this snap sound, and I thought, oh my god, and I just cringed, and I thought it was the grossest thing ever. But no, he'll be back in a month.
He'll be back in a few weeks.
Yeah, something that should take eight months to rehab. He'll be back by the next pay-per-view. It's just a strain. It's
a fat man strain. The 700-pound strain.
So Razor's making his entrance. Vince is like, this is the only 4-time Intercontinental Champ. And at that point, a young Chris Jericho and Dolph Ziggler and fucking Miz is like, I can do better than that. So that just tells you how devalued that title became. So Vader comes out. He's got the early strength advantage. And, of course, Vince can't help himself. He has to call him the Mastodon. He has to get his branding, because Vader or Van Vader was he thought that was just a ridiculous name. We have to call him the Mastodon. He has to be an animal. Grr, pal. That's right. That's my best Vince.
Grr, baby, grr.
The first 3 or 4 minutes is just Vader walking around, punching Razor in the ribs. Razor gets a brief flurry with some right hands, beating Vader down in the corner. Razor clotheslines Vader out of the ring. Referee Tim White waits for about 3 or 4 minutes before starting the count on Vader, and then once he starts counting, you've never seen a faster 10 count. He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hurry up, I gotta get back to the friendly tap.
So Vader gets back in the ring. Avalanche in the corner. Meanwhile, Vince the whole time, he's a big Mack truck. He's a big Rhino. He's a big Master.
He's a big rhino. I thought that was Jim Neidhart.
Why was he so obsessed with this mastodon?
I don't know.
Like, does he want to trademark it? I guess.
Could be.
Maybe that's why his run, Vader's run in '96 was so marred with political bullshit between Shawn and. So maybe if he had just gone with Mastodon, Vince would have been like, no, Vader's going over at SummerSlam.
Yep, at the SummerSlam.
Razor reverses a vertical suplex. He then hits his second rope bulldog for a near fall. Vader goes up for a moonsault, but
didn't Vader do a Vader bomb at one point and Razor kicked out?
Yep, he did a Vader bomb for a near fall.
You killed the finish.
Well, see, he was going to do his moonsault.
Ah, yes.
But
Razor goes for a Razor's Edge and can't hold him up.
Why would you try to do that to a 400? I don't think he was legit for.
I mean, Lex Luger slammed Yokozuna, who was 600 pounds. And I guess that's not like trying to do a crucifix.
Well, I mean, and these are all gimmick weights. I mean, you're not going to and. You can't compare Lex Luger's physique and lifting power to Scott Hall. I don't say.
No. Anyway.
So they try the Razor's Edge. Vader backdrops him. He squishes him with the ass drop, and that's the finish.
A rather auspicious way for Razor to lose his last match.
Every time someone has ever attempted a sunset flip on a fat guy, and the fat guy's like, I'm just going to jump and land my ass on him. And what happens 99% of the time?
The little guy moves.
The baby face moves. Not this time, because Razor's like, fuck this. I am out of here. I'm just going to collect my check.
I got one more date in me, and it's gonna be in Madison Square Garden. I'll see you in 3 weeks.
14 minutes and 49 seconds this went.
Yep.
And then Doc Hendricks comes out, and he announces that Vader will take on... They can't just say, Vader, you're taking on Yokozuna. They have to say, you're going to take on the 648-pound... Meanwhile, like, Michael Hayes is like scared out of his pants because he doesn't want to tell Vader any bad news. I don't blame him.
Also, like, Vader, he's telling Vader he's going to be on the next pay-per-view, and Cornette's like, of course he's going to be on the next pay-per-view. Why wouldn't he be?
Because
you know something we don't?
Because it's Beware of Dog, and you should probably just take the night off. It ain't going to be worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Vader and Yokozuna in 4 weeks at the Next In Your House, when Yokozuna's surgically repaired 800-pound turkey leg has been fixed up and tied together.
I wonder what happens or doesn't happen there.
Yeah. We cut back to the Superstar line. Some IT tech support geeks are transcribing Paul Bearer, while Taker is just standing there stoically, stretching his gloves.
Oh, yes!
And looking all mean and dead. We get a plug for a golf shirt and a hat pack.
Don't buy this. It costs too much.
I would love to wear a denim golf shirt that had Shawn Michaels' heartbreak teardrop logo on it.
A 1992 logo.
God. And okay. Tag team titles are up next. The champions, the Body Donnas with Sonny versus the fucking Godwins.
Who don't get an entrance.
No, they don't. Poor Godwins and Hillbilly don't get an entrance because they're not the stars. Body Donnas are not the star. Sonny is the star.
Of course.
And she does look very nice in this new black gear that they had for her. But this was a typical example of what shit the tag team division was like in
the mid-90s.
Well, not some... You know what? Even like WCW had a fairly good tag team roster at this time.
WWF did not.
And this was one of the reasons why I stopped watching WWF for a long time, because I liked tag teams. I liked watching, at this time in WCW you had Harlem Heat and the Nasty Boys. They were doing pretty good. Road Warriors were there. Steiners were, kicking ass over there.
Public Enemy was there.
Public Enemy was there. They were having some fun matches. You had
the Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods were kind of on the tail end of their run.
High Voltage. Oh wait, that was later.
One of these things is not like the other.
The Amazing French Canadians came in for some reason.
Ming and Barbarian I thought were fun.
I like Ming and the Barbarian as a team, yes. The Faces of Fear.
Because I love tag team wrestling. And then I'm watching these bloody cartoon characters. And see, and I used to...
It's a shame because I like the Godwins, if you actually took them seriously, look like they could be which they would later, could be a menacing team. But no, you turn them into a hillbilly act that Vince can laugh at because Vince hates hillbillies.
Yeah, like when Henry Godwin was an ass-kicking heel when he first came in, like, forget the pig farmer gimmick. I liked him. I thought that he was really cool, but now he's just more cartoony than ever. And the Godwins would have been a great fit in WWF in the mid-'80s, but that's what they had Uncle Elmer for, and Hillbilly Jim, and so...
Cousin Luke, Cousin Junior.
God.
Any batch of those hillbillies that didn't get over.
Like, take a look at your tag team roster in WWF at this time. You have the Godwins, Body Donnas, the Smoking Guns, the New Rockers. There was a glimmer of hope when Furnace and LaFon came in, because they were like...
Dog and Owen and Furnace and LaFon at the end of the year.
Right. So they had potential there, but they fucked it up because Vince doesn't like tag teams.
Well, he does when, I'm sure he liked it in 2000 when they were making him money. Or in the 80s when they were making him money, but there's a big gap after that when he didn't do anything with it. Like, when he has the Road Warriors and he gives them the titles, but they don't really do anything with them.
Well, if Vince had his way, he would have brought Road Warriors in just so they could break them up. Like,
right.
That's what his thing was. He brought tag teams in just so they could break them up.
Well, you had the Steiner brothers in 93, and they basically, have a tepid run that has maybe they have good pay-per-view matches, but not much else.
They had a good pay-per-view match with the Head Shrinkers. They had a nice series with Money Inc., but then nothing.
They have a good, even though the rules are confusing, they have that good tag match on that one Raw with the Quebecers where they lose the titles.
Oh, because they got beat with the hockey stick.
Yes, with Johnny Polo.
How was that a good match?
The match itself, if you don't have the rules, is good.
Oh, sure. Like, if we don't have rules or a referee...
No, if you don't have the stupid, province of Quebec rules.
Any concept of realism in your sports entertainment, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, this was
nothing.
This was it was a fairly okay speed versus power match. The Body Don.
Why was Henry pinned in the finish and not Phineas again, like at WrestleMania 12? That would have made more sense since the whole angle is that Phineas is in love with Sonny and she's using it to his advantage.
That would make more sense. So basically the ending comes where Sonny has a framed photo to give to Pig, as it's written on there, to Pig from Sonny. And then he gets distracted. Henry gets,
that could be any number of fans, but anyway.
Henry Godwin gets rolled up from, one of the Body Dons, because they did the Twin Magic switch. And Henry and poor Hillbilly Jim, who's regretting his life choices at this point. Like,
why am I still employed in this company?
Because I got tax problems.
Why can't I go to Bank Rotunda? Oh, wait, he's in the other company.
So they take the photo, they put it in the bucket of slop. Phineas is like, no, I'm gonna save this for later when I'm in the bathroom by myself. And
Jesus.
Puts the picture in his...
There's a terrible visual, Rowan.
In his trousers for later on in the night.
He put them in his big overalls. Anyway.
We got a promo for the next In Your House event. So signed and ready to go for next month, Mark Merrow versus Triple H. So Mark Merrow at this point was just brought in. His first appearance was at WrestleMania in an interview, and he's...
Where Todd Pettengill fucked up his name.
Mark Morrow?
Yes.
God, things that we remember, right?
Yeah. And Vince didn't want Merrill. He wanted Johnny bad, but that was another company's gimmick.
That's probably why they had him lose the first 3 or 4 matches that he was on.
I think he had only had one match at this point.
He did the dark match, or the quote, free-for-all match.
Where he won by DQ.
On this show against the 1-2-3 Kid. And then later on in the night, he also, he worked someone else, and he lost.
He worked on Triple H.
So, okay, there you go. So, if you were there live in Omaha, in the Cornhusker Stadium, whatever the hell that place was
Civic
called.
Auditorium.
You know it's a
That thing says small town like when the building is an auditorium or a civic center.
I was gonna say, if it says civic or county or anything
auditorium.
I'm not ragging on Omaha. I'm just saying.
Anytime the building is called an auditorium or a civic center, it's a small town.
Right. We then get a nice recap of the Shawn and Diesel feud, and this is something that we're never ever going to see again in wrestling, and it depresses me.
Mad Dog getting his leg taken off? I thought we saw that 2 years later.
No, what I was going to say is you don't get these long 2 or 3 year story arcs, because they do this really lengthy, in-depth profile on the how Shawn and Diesel met and how they became friends, and then they became tag team champions, and then they became individual champions. They had their WrestleMania 11 match when Shawn was the heel after winning the Royal Rumble. Then they cut to Diesel losing the WWF title to Bret Hart at Survivor Series, and then going on his little subsequent rampage and turning heel in the process. And now it all comes boiling back down to this match. So Vince and the writers now, they won't have that attention to detail. They don't have the patience for this type of long-term storyline. And it's sad and depressing because this is the sort of thing that I could watch. And there's so many callbacks to like their previous matches and their previous like associations. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember when that happened. And oh, that was 3 years ago. And it's sad now.
Yeah.
So our main event now. We're already at the main event, are we?
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels and Diesel, no holds barred for the WWF title. Shawn is with, of course, Josie Lothario. Isn't
there promos, like little quick promos from Shawn and Diesel before this?
Well, you get a shot of Jose rubbing oil or Vaseline over Shawn's hairy chest.
Oh, jeez.
Sort of, psyching him up.
Manly.
And you've got Nash in the back, or Diesel saying, hey Vince, I got a little surprise for you. And his surprise was a leather vest. And how nice is that? That was a nice gift.
And Vince looks like disgusted by it.
So Diesel makes his entrance down, and he's being booed because he had just turned on his good, long-time, close personal friend Shawn Michaels.
Who Shawn had turned on him like a year prior, so.
Yeah, but that was last year's Diesel's issue. This is this year's Diesel issue. Come on.
Yeah.
Quit living in the past, man.
Right.
And the thing is, like, it's typically what would happen nowadays is it would be like the day after a pay-per-view, a new challenger for the title holder would attack him or make his presence known or give out the challenge. This happened like 2 weeks before Mania. So
right.
There was a tag match.
On a house show in Madison Square Garden.
Right. It was Shawn.
The first show in Madison Square Garden in like 2 years.
It was Shawn and Diesel versus Bret and Undertaker.
Yep.
And Diesel laid all three guys out with a chair. And this was like before the Iron Man match.
Yep.
Which also begs the question, if this were real, Diesel lost at WrestleMania. What gives him the right to have a title match?
Bret wasn't there, and Taker was going to wrestle in a dark match.
Well, Vader won at WrestleMania.
Vader's only been there 2 months.
Steve Austin, did he win at WrestleMania?
Yes, but he's still not done with Savio yet.
Doesn't matter. I need my challengers to earn their title shots, not just because they hit the boy toy with a chair.
Yep. I think Diesel had made the challenge like before losing to Taker at Mania. So wrestling logic, everybody. Guy who's challenging for title loses match before he gets title shot.
See, Dana White would never put up with this bullshit. It's like, hey,
nope.
Tony Ferguson lost. You're not getting a title shot. Forget that. So Diesel comes down and he takes off his big, thick, heavy leather vest, and from the ring he just launches it at the announce table, and I think it landed on Vince. And
Lawler has a good laugh.
I never liked Jerry's high-pitched laugh.
That's a good Jerry.
Another thing that I like about this match is that when Shawn comes out, he is not taking any bullshit. This is serious stuff. No prancing around.
He's not prancing around. He's not slowly walking. He's not even waiting for a bell to ring.
He is a motherfucker walking with a purpose. and he is there to kick his ass. And the dumbest thing I see when you have these blood feuds or these guys that just hate each other and they start with a lockup or they start with chain
or
wrestling.
they wait for intros in general.
Right. No, not Sean. He comes in, House of Fire, starts punching him, gives him a dropkick over the top rope, follows up with a top rope moonsault to the floor. He steals a cowboy boot from one of the Spanish announcers and bonks Diesel on the head. So, okay, you've got all these weapons. You decide that you have to duck under the Spanish announce table. Find a random boot. I'm sure
I think it was Hugo Savanovich's boot that I think Vince said.
And I guarantee you they never told Hugo that this was going to happen. There's probably two people that knew that was going to happen, and one was Sean and one was Diesel.
And maybe Vince. So 3 people.
Diesel gets his heat back. He knocks Sean to the floor. Sean is just bumping like crazy for this guy. It was at this point where I realized this is about 5 times better than their WrestleMania match. Would you agree?
Yes.
So there's a big sidewalk slam by Diesel. He's doing all of his regular standard spots. He slowly removes his wrist tape, and because this is a no-holds-barred match, we just did, he's going to choke Sean with his wrist tape. But no, he chokes Baby Earl with it. And I thought...
And then steals his belt.
Right, takes off Earl's belt and just starts whipping Sean with it. Again, probably something that Earl didn't know was going to happen.
Well, that wouldn't be the worst of things that Earl didn't know was going to happen.
Diesel goes to the outside. He throws poor Fink out of his chair, and he uses it on Sean. Diesel does the missing the chair on the rope spot made famous by Kurt Angle, and he bonks himself in the head.
Momentum carries a chair to the head.
He gives Sean a great big backdrop. Sean's always taking great backdrops.
Yep.
I always go back to the best backdrop I ever saw was Sean in the 1990 Survivor Series with the Warlord.
Ooh, that's the one I haven't watched in a while.
You should watch that. It's just for that one spot.
If we're still doing shows in November and this lockdown isn't over with, we might have to go back to that.
That's actually one of my favorite events.
I like that one. I like 89 too.
Yeah.
Where they do all the intros at the beginning of the show.
Team Captain Nikolai Volkov and Sergeant Slaughter.
And they're teaming up with the Bushwhackers, the Orient Express.
And a mystery partner.
Tito Santana. and Boris Zukov, who's still there for some reason.
So back to Omaha.
Yep.
We get Diesel. Diesel and Sean are on the floor, and he's going to set him up for the jackknife. And Vince is losing his shit. Not on the floor. Don't powerbomb on the floor. And he's like, okay, I'll put him through your announce table. And it wasn't the. It's just like a regular wooden table that you'd find at any yard sale.
Yep.
And he picks up Sean. He powerbombs him through the table. And as he's powerbombing him through, these big, heavy monitors leap up from both sides of the table and land right on Sean's junk. I bet that hurt more than the powerbomb itself.
But then 30 seconds later, Diesel's in the ring and Sean has a fire extinguisher.
Right, but in that whole time, Vince is like, God, let it be over. It's okay. Let it be over.
Just end the match already.
He is so concerned for Sean's safety that it's okay. It's just a title. Just let it be over. And Sean doesn't give up, and he is fighting, and gets the fire.
He's being a good babyface.
He's pushing Vince away because no one's going to hold him down. And then Sean squirts him in the face with a fire extinguisher. I don't know how you fake the fire extinguisher spot. I guess you just close your eyes?
It's like getting shampoo in your eyes.
I would like to see that spot.
Shampoo or soap or something.
Right, just like Sean goes under the ring, gets like a bottle of No Tears like baby shampoo.
Yeah.
And slowly
and shoulders.
Like holds his eyes open, Clockwork Orange style. And then just like slowly drops some shampoo and then like rubs it in really quick.
He's blinded and it's gonna hurt his eyes.
And Diesel's like, ow, 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 ow.
It burns. He burned his eyes with shampoo. Somebody's called stop the damn match. He's
got a family, damn it. So Shawn goes through his standard comeback, the flying forearm, the kip up. Shawn gets the chair and he attempts to whack it with him, but it's so tangled with audio equipment. It's so funny because Shawn gets pissed off and just whips the chair around, and the headset probably goes flying off into the first row. And
hey, somebody got a souvenir.
Maybe it hit a kid. I don't know.
Oh God. There's a lawsuit you don't want 20 years later.
And then Diesel comes back with a big boot. I always thought Diesel's big boot was better than anyone else who did that spot.
Yep.
Like, better than Hogan, better than Taker.
Shawn goes for the super kick and Diesel does chin music and Diesel blocks it.
He then hits the top rope elbow, but that's not he doesn't even go for the cover on that one. He makes another comeback, Diesel does. Drops Shawn on the guardrail. Throws Shawn back into the ring, and just about when Diesel's ready to climb back in the ring, he stops for a second. He looks over to his right, and something catches young Kevin Nash's eye. Tell us what catches his eye, young Mike.
Mad Dog Vachon is in the crowd.
Why is he there? Well, because he lives in Omaha, apparently.
And Diesel pulls him out and rips his fake leg off like he's Zach Gowen.
That was another thing. I was unaware at that point in my young life that Mad Dog Vachon had a prosthetic leg. So you can imagine my surprise when I see this gigantic 300-pound monster literally rip a man's leg off.
And then the commentators are like, "Oh no, we told you it was gonna be no holds barred, but we didn't expect this." Vince, what'd you expect?
So we try to. Vince is like, "I can't believe Diesel would stoop so low." On Shawn,
tries to get a leg up on the competition.
Bravo, good sir. Because Diesel is a heel.
Yes.
Pause for applause. He tries to bonk Shawn with this fake leg, and Shawn gives him a low blow. Shawn then gets the leg and winds up baseball bat style and bonks Diesel with it. Meanwhile, this whole time,
I was kind of hoping we'd do a super kick with a fake leg.
He should have just pounded the fake leg on the ground a few times and then threw it at him like a lawn dart.
Like Nash would do to Rey Mysterio a few months later.
Right. But this whole time Vince is like, "I can't believe Diesel would stoop so low." It's like, fucker, Shawn was the one that actually hit him with the leg.
Yes.
And then we get the sweet chin music build up, and Shawn is stomping his foot to get the crowd going. And the director, probably Kevin Dunn, nearly misses the spot because they're too busy doing a close-up of Shawn's foot and doing camera cuts. And they cut
Kevin Dunn.
They cut to a wide shot just as Shawn hits the kick, gets the 3 count, and you have never seen someone celebrate on such an emotional win like Shawn did. And I'm not even being sarcastic about that. He was fired up. He flipped Diesel off. He pushed referee Earl out of the ring. He was not...
Get out of my damn ring!
He was not taking any bullshit from anyone. This was his ring. He's the champ. He's the chosen one. This match was great. I loved this match.
Yes. Very good main event to end a so-so show.
Like I said at the beginning, this was a one-show event like a lot of these in-your-house shows were. The undercard of this show is completely forgettable, but that doesn't matter because nobody is buying this show to see the fucking Godwins.
Or the British Bulldog versus Jake Roberts.
Right.
They might buy it for Vader and Razor if you built that a little better.
I thought both guys in this match, they were incredibly emotionally involved. Like I said before, we don't see this type of storyline anymore. The Iron Man match with Brett was really good, but everybody knew that was going to be a good match because both guys were, they knew how to pace themselves. But anyone that can get a near 5-star match out of Kevin Nash, that's a bloody marvel. And this was actually one of my favorite Shawn matches in his first title run.
What was another one that you liked? Probably Mankind.
The Mankind one I liked. I got really excited for the Vader match at SummerSlam, but that ended up being just this big cluster. And
I kind of like the Sid match from Survivor Series.
If you're going to go for a transition, that was a good way to get the title off of him. just because they knew that they were doing the Alamo Dome later on in
January.
But yeah, Shawn in '96, he was unstoppable.
And he was actually drawing good money too at that point, or as good as WWF could do in '96.
The one thing I didn't really like was that the fact that the first thing he's going to do when he becomes champ and he gets a little political stroke is like, I just want to work with all my buddies.
What? They're going to another company.
So I want to give them one more payday before they leave. So
he does work with Kid on like a Superstars or something before this show.
I'm surprised that he never worked with Hall before he left.
Hall was the face.
That's true. So,
although they did do the face ladder match at SummerSlam the year before.
Yeah, that was before anyone knew that they were leaving. So.
Yeah.
And Razor was champion then too, wasn't he? No, Shawn was.
No, Shawn was.
Okay. Yeah, because he had to get his win back.
Yeah. Gotta get my heat back, brother.
So that was In Your House. Good friends, better enemies. Like I said, this was a completely one-match show, but go ahead and watch that match. I'm sure that you can find it not only on the network, but I'm sure on some compilation of Shawn.
It's on. I think it's on the first Shawn comp that they did, From the Vault one.
Yeah. It goes about 18 minutes, but it's exciting the whole time. I think the announcers actually did make this match even that much better. So
it's the first time, or one of the first times they ever did this type of match before they played it out during the Attitude Era.
So before we get to the next pick, and it's my pick this week, right?
Yeah, it's yours.
Okay, and I'll be honest with you, I've been sort of humming and hawing about what to watch next time. Because after seeing this show, it's like, I want to watch something with some good tag team matches on it. And I've got 3 different choices here, and I'll make my choice after we do the first annual Angry Marks Rewind draft.
And you know what? Since I'm thinking about it here, why don't you make your first pick?
Oh, okay. I have my list of individuals. What we're going to do is I'm going to put on Twitter our teams once we're finished and let people vote as to who thinks or who has the better Survivor Series team. So we're picking teams of 5.
Yep.
They cannot be have held
champions, world champions.
They cannot be a world champion in any national organization. And if we pick someone, we can veto it if we have just cause.
Okay.
So I am on the clock. My first choice, my first overall pick for my Survivor Series team is Arn Anderson.
And my first pick is Jake the Snake Roberts.
Okay, let's write it down. First round. I have Arn. Mike has Jake.
There's going to be a lot of psychology on those teams.
Okay, actually Jake was on my list, so I will remove him.
Yep, and you got the next pick.
With my second overall pick, I am picking Owen Hart.
Interesting.
Arn Anderson and Owen Hart so far on Rowan's team. Mike, you have the...
I got, for my second pick, I'm going to pick Flying Brian.
He was not on my radar. Now, are we doing Flying Brian from WCW or Loose Cannon?
Flying Brian in his peak, WCW.
Flying Brian, okay. This is going good so far.
Yes.
With my third pick, I am picking someone who excels at tag team wrestling, someone who I believe is one of the most underrated guys in the history of this business, beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Damn it! That was one. He was on my radar because I think he was a great tag wrestler, but he's also someone that, since I've watched a lot of his single stuff on the network, he's an underrated guy to me. That's a good pick.
He has a really good 2 out of 3 falls match with Flair on one of the Clash of Champions.
91. Terry Taylor, he has a match with him on Halloween Havoc 91.
He was tag champs with Arn. They're part of the Dangerous Alliance. I think that's, obviously Midnight Express. I think that's a very good pick for me.
Well, you know what? You picked Bobby. I'm going to pick one of his rivals, and Ricky Morton.
Ricky Morton.
And that would be Rock and Roll Express, Ricky.
Explain the logic on that conclusion.
Not Richard. Not York Foundation.
That is not someone I would have had on my radar. Why did you choose him?
You know what? I wanted the good tag team, and I'll get to my next pick later, but I wanted the good tag team on there.
Hey, I should take Bobby Eaton off the list. Take Owen Hart off the list. Okay. With my fourth pick, I am picking someone that we saw on this show tonight. That is Scott Hall.
Hey, yo. My fourth pick is Robert Gibson for the Rock and Roll Express.
Robert Gibson making up the team.
And then our last two picks.
We'll remove Scott Hall from the list here. I have a list of a bunch of different guys that I'm humming and hawing about. I'm going to pick with my final choice, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
And my final choice, I'm going to go with a young guy from the AEW roster, Darby Allin.
That's a heck of a choice. I would have not. I don't know why I didn't think of like more modern guys. But yeah, like for my last pick, I was throwing around the idea of William Regal, Davey Boy Smith, Roddy Piper.
You picked Arn. I had him for my captain on my team.
Okay, so let's recap on your team. We have Jake the Snake Roberts, Flying Brian Pillman, the Rock and Roll Express, and Darby Allin. And my team, captained by Arn Anderson, Owen Hart, Bobby Eaton, Scott Hall, and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
Those are good teams. Now, what is your pick for our next show?
Well, like I said, I wanted to watch something with some tag teams, like a good tag match on it, but I also wanted to celebrate your birthday and find something that happened on or around your birthday. And I was taking a look, well, what happened on this week, like the first week of May? And I was looking at, my first option was ECW WrestlePalooza 98. And then I looked at that show and it's like, no, we're not going to do that. I want to watch some good tag teams.
I've heard bad things about that show, so I'm glad you didn't pick that.
I'm going to go, well, let's see, and then I made up my mind, it's like, we're going to do 2002 WWE No Mercy, which has a hell of a tag team match, but then I looked at it, it's like, oh, this is the Katie Vick show.
Oh, God.
It did not happen in May. It happened October 20th. And
that's a good show, though, even though the Katie Vick stuff is there.
We have Brock Lesnar defending the title versus The Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match.
Hell in a Cell.
We have the finals of the inaugural SmackDown Tag Team Championship. It'll be Edge and Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Kurt Angle and some partner of his. I'm not sure who that is.
Voldemort. We also have, we had two bad storylines on both shows going on at that time because we also have the Al Wilson storyline with Tori Wilson and Dawn Marie.
We have Trish Stratus versus Victoria for the women's title. We have
Jericho and Christian against Booker and Goldust.
We have Kane defending his Intercontinental title against the World Heavyweight Champion and his title, Triple H, for a unification match. I can't imagine who goes over in that one.
You're a murderer, Kane.
We get Jamie Noble versus Tajiri. We get Ric Flair versus Rob Van Dam. There is a clash of styles if I ever saw one.
And is that it? I think we've gone through the whole card.
And Dawn Marie and Tori Wilson.
I said that. Yes, that's the Al Wilson storyline.
Right, but we're more thinking about the SmackDown angle as opposed to what actually happened on this show.
Right.
That's it for this week, everybody. If you want to get a hold of me, if you have ideas about future shows you want, or if you want to bitch about how we're not making a living on this, like Brian and Vinny,
which we're not trying to begin with,
go on to Twitter @RowanUnruh. Mike, how can folks find you?
Well, if you want to find me, you can look me up on Facebook. You can go Wrestling5286, and that's all you have. That's how you can find me. And I guess we'll talk to you in probably 2 to 3 weeks.
Sounds good. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.